an act concerning a deduction from the personal income tax for student loan interest. It is no secret that student debt is quickly becoming one of the largest financial burdens our young citizens face. Connecticut ranks 6th in the nation in the average amount of student debt for students who graduated in 2013. The White House estimates that 511,000 Connecticut residents have outstanding student loans that average $24,810. The financial burden of student debt will continue to rise as the high cost of higher education has shown no signs of slowing down. The proposal before you would provide some modest relief to those who have student debt by allowing the taxpayer to deduct student loan interest from their state personal income tax liability. Currently, taxpayers are able to deduct the student loan interest from their federal income tax liability. This proposal would allow the taxpayers to take an additional deduction off their state income tax. This proposal may not be the silver bullet to fixing the crushing burden of student loan debt, but it will go a long way in showing that Connecticut wants our young education citizens to stay and thrive in our state. It has been said that Connecticut is losing our young professionals at an alarming rate. We need to be creating an environment where they feel they can be successful. This proposal is just one of those tools that the state can use to show our young professionals that Connecticut is the right place for them. I urge the Finance Committee to pass HB 6445, implementing a deduction from the income tax on student loan interest. Please allow the full General Assembly the opportunity to debate this issue and to pass legislation to keep our young talent in Connecticut. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Comments or questions from committee members? Senator Boucher, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And thank you very much, Representative, for highlighting such an important issue. It certainly strikes a chord with me, and it's good to hear from someone that appears to be just recently graduated from the higher educational institutions that we have, and we're very proud to have you here serving in our House. You've brought forward an important issue. This is one way to finding small solutions around what is becoming a national crisis in many people's minds. The cost of higher education is skyrocketing, and some feel it's at a tipping point, and I'm sure you would agree with me that it is widening the income gap in this country because there's such a direct relationship between income and attainment of higher education. And for middle to low income families, the cost of tuition is impeding their access. And if we do that, it really does threaten and undermine our democracy in the long term. Yet, we're seeing, as a state, that higher tuition costs just continue unabated. And so here we are, as a state, reducing the amount of state subsidies to higher education, but yet increasing fringes, wages, benefits, health care to the wages of higher education that seem to be now directly transferred to the tuition hikes that we have, often in the double digits. So you've highlighted something that's important, because if we have a 4 to 6% increases in those fringes that we're talking about, and then you have an increase in tuition of 5% plus 6% more in fees, which is what we are doing right now, you're talking about double-digit increases on a yearly basis. Again, those higher wages translated into higher tuition bills. And now what you're saying, your solution is, well, guess what? The state has imposed those higher tuitions on these students. They're taking out enormous student debt. Let's give them a break, so the state must have to lose on that end. On the other end, it almost seems like a certain amount of political justice in your proposal, and I commend you for it. I'm highly supportive, and if you have anything further to ask, please do so.
That was in the form of a question. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wish I could take credit for this proposal, but lo and behold, I did not come up with this idea. I'm happy to advocate on behalf of it. I think it's difficult to apply caps in certain areas. We can take higher education, for example, when costs can so easily be pushed off through other venues, administrative costs just being one of them. I think that This bill would establish, I think, a cap of about $2,500 deductibility. That's not a savings of $2,500, but that can bring down a student's income tax bracket. That can drop them into a lower tax bracket. If they're saving $1,000, that's a down payment on a car, on a modest used car. Transportation is absolutely vital in seeking employment. For someone right out of college, a reliable vehicle is absolutely paramount, and that's just one savings that comes to mind in the need of a recent college graduate. And you're correct, I did recently graduate in 2012, although I did turn 25, so I feel like I'm pushing more towards veteran status every day. But thank you, Senator.
Thank you for being such a strong advocate. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Davis, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative, for speaking on behalf of our caucus in support of this bill. I know it's something that's very important, and coupled with the Senate Republicans' proposal for establishing the Learn Here, Live Here program, I think the two of these bills put together sends a very strong message to young people across the state, but also across the country, that if you come and learn here in Connecticut and stay here in Connecticut, we're here to support you and help you. You had mentioned that there was a $2,500 cap on this. Do you have any idea? It's also for income levels, too. There's a cap on that, my understanding, on the federal level. Would this mirror that as well?
I don't know what the number federally is. There is an existing federal level. This would just address state income tax liability.
Sure. And I think if we take this on, if it would be similar, which I think
Sure.
the bill proposes, it would kind of cap it at $125,000 to $150,000 a year for a married couple, which really targets our working class families here in Connecticut to provide them with that kind of relief. And it's not just about young people, as you mentioned in your testimony. I think it also goes to those single mothers that are
Sure.
that are going back to school, that are trying to make it work. Those individuals that are looking for a second career, that have either returned to technical college or perhaps back to school and have those student loans, even though they may not be young. It would definitely help them as well. So I applaud you on your efforts, and I certainly hope that this bill moves forward this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. May I respond, Mr. Chair?
Please proceed, Representative.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to very briefly add that we all speak of the economy drastically changing and doing so very quickly, and parents are going back to school. They're trying to retrain as fast as they can for as affordably as they can, going to night school. And I think creating some incentive to do that is it looks like something. It looks like allowing a single mother to put aside and be exempt from certain tax burdens that she would normally have to bear in order to acquire a new skill. And so I'm very proud to be here on behalf of the caucus, and we talk about very often we need to keep people here, we need to incentivize a modern workforce, and I think it looks like something, and I think it looks like this bill.